Have you ever wondered how you remember your best friend's birthday, solve a math problem, or decide what to eat for dinner? These everyday activities, memory, problem-solving, and decision-making, are all part of cognitive psychology, a fascinating branch of psychology that explores how our minds work. Cognitive psychology is the scientific study of mental processes, including how we think, learn, remember, perceive, and understand the world around us. It's like a detective story where researchers unravel the mysteries of the human mind, piecing together clues about how we process information and navigate life. In this video, we'll discuss the cognitive psychology, exploring its history, key concepts, methods, and real-world applications. By the end, you'll have a clear, engaging, and comprehensive understanding of this exciting field, all in simple, easy-to-understand language. Let's get started.
What is cognitive psychology?
At its core, cognitive psychology is all about the mind. It focuses on internal processes, things we can't see directly like thoughts, memories, and attention. Imagine your brain as a supercomputer, constantly taking in data, sights, sounds, smells, processing it, and producing outputs, decisions, actions, emotions. Cognitive psychology studies how this supercomputer operates, asking questions like, how do we pay attention to a conversation in a noisy room? Why do we forget where we parked our car? How do we learn a new skill, like riding a bike? Unlike other areas of psychology, such as behavioral psychology, which looks at observable actions, or clinical psychology, which focuses on mental health, cognitive psychology zooms in on the invisible workings of the mind. It's a bit like looking under the hood of a car to understand how the engine runs.
A brief history of cognitive psychology.
The story of cognitive psychology begins long ago, but it really took shape in the mid-20th century. Let's take a quick trip through time. Early roots, philosophy, and the mind. Before psychology became a science, philosophers like Plato and Aristotle pondered how humans think and learn. In the 17th century, thinkers like René Descartes wondered if the mind and body were separate, laying early groundwork for understanding mental processes. The rise of experimental psychology. In the late 19th century, psychology became a scientific field. Wilhelm Wundt, often called the father of psychology, opened the first psychology lab in 1879 in Germany. He studied basic mental processes like sensation and perception, early building blocks of cognitive psychology. Behaviorism takes over. In the early 20th century, behaviorism dominated psychology. Scientists like John B. Watson and B. F. Skinner focused only on observable behaviors, saying the mind was too hard to study. For example, they'd look at how a rat learns to press a lever for food, ignoring what the rat might be thinking. The cognitive revolution. By the 1950s, researchers grew frustrated with behaviorism's limits. They wanted to explore the mind, not just actions. This sparked the cognitive revolution. A key moment came in 1956 when George A. Miller published a paper on memory, suggesting we can hold about 7 items, plus or minus 2, in our short-term memory at once. Around the same time, computers emerged, giving scientists a new way to think about the mind as an information processing system. In 1967, psychologist Ulrich Neisser officially named and defined cognitive psychology in his book Cognitive Psychology, calling it the study of how people process information. The cognitive revolution. Today, cognitive psychology thrives, blending insights from neuroscience, computer science, and even artificial intelligence to unlock the secrets of the mind. Cognitive psychology covers a wide range of mental processes. Here are the main ones, explained simply. 1. Perception. Perception is how we interpret the world through our senses. When you see a red apple, hear a bird chirping, or smell fresh cookies, your brain takes in sensory data and makes sense of it. But perception isn't perfect. Optical illusions, like a drawing that looks like both a duck and a rabbit, show how our brains can be tricked. 2. Attention. Attention is like a spotlight. It helps you focus on one thing while ignoring others. Imagine you're at a party, chatting with a friend while music blares and people laugh. Your brain tunes out the noise to hear your friend. This is called the cocktail party effect. But attention has limits. That's why texting while driving is so dangerous. You can't fully focus on both. 3. Memory. Memory is your brain's filing cabinet, storing and retrieving information. There are 3 main types. Sensory memory, a super quick snapshot, like the afterimage of a sparkler you wave in the dark, lasts less than a second. Short-term memory holds info briefly, like a phone number you repeat before dialing, about 20-30 seconds, 5 to 9 items. Long-term memory stores things for years, like your first day of school or how to tie your shoes. Fun fact, forgetting isn't always bad. It helps your brain clear out clutter so you can focus on what matters. 4. Language. Language lets us communicate thoughts through words, sounds, and gestures. Cognitive psychologists study how we learn language as kids, understand sentences, and even think in words. For example, how do bilingual people switch between languages so easily? 5. Thinking and problem solving. Thinking is how we reason, make decisions, and solve problems. Say you're doing a puzzle. Your brain might use trial and error, trying pieces until one fits, or a strategy, starting with the edges. Cognitive psychology explores how we think creatively or get stuck on bad solutions. 6. Decision-making. Every day we make choices, small ones, cereal or toast, and big ones, which job to take. Cognitive psychology examines why we sometimes make poor decisions, like ignoring risks due to biases or mental shortcuts. For instance, the availability bias makes us fear plane crashes more than car accidents because crashes get more news coverage. Studying something invisible like the mind isn't easy, but researchers use clever methods. Here are some key approaches. 1. Experiments. Scientists run controlled tests, like asking people to memorize a list of words and seeing how many they recall after a delay. This helps uncover how memory works. 2. Observation. Researchers watch how people behave in real life. For example, they might study how kids learn new words by listening to parents. 3. Brain imaging tools like fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, scan the brain to see which parts light up during tasks like reading or solving math problems. This links mental processes to brain activity. 4. Computer models. Since the brain acts like a computer, scientists build models to simulate thinking. For example, they might program a computer to mimic how we recognize faces, testing theories about perception. 5. Case studies. Sometimes rare cases teach us a lot. Take HM, a patient who lost the ability to form new memories after brain surgery in the 1950s. Studying him showed that memory relies on a brain part called the hippocampus. To explain how the mind works, cognitive psychologists create theories and models. Here are two big ones. 1. Information processing model. This model compares the mind to a computer. It says we. Input. Take in info through senses, e.g., seeing a stop sign. Process. Think about it. Recognizing it means stop. Output. Act. Hitting the brakes. This simple framework helps explain perception, memory, and more. 2. Multi-store model of memory. Proposed by Richard Atkinson and Richard Schifrin. In 1968, this model splits memory into 3 stages: sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Info moves from one to the next if we pay attention and rehearse it. For example, repeating a grocery list helps it stick in long-term memory. Cognitive psychology isn't just for labs, it changes lives. Here are some exciting ways it's used. 1. Education teachers use cognitive insights to help students learn better. For example, chunking information, grouping items like breaking a phone number into 10223 456 7890 makes it easier to remember. Spaced repetition, reviewing material over time, also boosts retention. 2. Technology. Ever notice how apps and websites are easy to use? That's cognitive psychology at work. Designers study how we perceive and think to create user-friendly interfaces like simple buttons or clear menus. 3. Medicine. Cognitive psychology helps people with brain injuries or disorders like Alzheimer's. Therapists use memory exercises to help patients recall daily tasks. It also informs treatments for attention disorders like ADHD. 4. Advertising marketers use cognitive tricks to grab your attention. Bright colors, catchy jingles, and repeated ads stick in your memory, making you more likely to buy a product. 5. Law. In court, cognitive psychology explains why eyewitness testimony can be unreliable. Our memories can be fuzzy or influenced by questions, so psychologists help juries understand these limits. Let's explore some mind-blowing findings that make this field so interesting. 1. The Stroop effect. Try this. Say the color of the word red when it's written in blue ink. Hard, right? This is the Stroop effect. Your brain struggles because reading the word red conflicts with naming the color blue. It shows how automatic processes like reading can interfere with attention. 2. False memories. Did you ever remember something that never happened? Cognitive psychologists, like Elizabeth Loftus, showed our memories can be altered by suggestions. For example, if someone asks, "Did you see the broken glass?" After a car accident, you might recall glass that wasn't there. 3. Multitasking myth. Think you're great at multitasking? Research says otherwise. When you text and watch TV, your brain switches between tasks, slowing you down and raising errors. Cognitive psychology shows we're better at focusing on one thing at a time. Cognitive psychology has come far, but challenges remain. The mind is complex, and no two brains are exactly alike. Culture, emotions, and individual differences, like age or personality, affect how we think. Plus, measuring the mind isn't perfect. Brain scans can't fully capture thoughts or feelings. The future is exciting, though. Advances in neuroscience let us see the brain in action, while artificial intelligence helps model thinking. Researchers are also exploring how cognitive psychology can tackle big issues, like improving mental health or designing smarter robots. Cognitive psychology helps us understand ourselves. It reveals why we make mistakes, how we learn, and what makes us human. Whether you're a student acing a test, a driver staying alert, or just curious about your thoughts, this field touches your life. It's a window into the amazing, mysterious world inside your head. Cognitive psychology is the science of the mind, unlocking how we perceive, think, remember, and more. From its roots in philosophy to the cognitive revolution, it's grown into a vital field with practical uses in education, technology, medicine, and beyond. With cool discoveries like the Stroop effect and false memories, it's also endlessly fascinating. So, next time you solve a problem or recall a happy moment, think about cognitive psychology, your brain's behind-the-scenes magic at work. Memory challenge. Write down 10 random words, e.g., cat, tree, book. Wait 5 minutes, then try to recall them. How many did you get? This tests your short-term memory. Attention test. In a noisy place, try listening to one person speak. Notice how your brain filters out other sounds. Thank cognitive psychology for that. Want to learn more? Check out Cognitive Psychology by Ulrich Neisser, 1967. Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, 2011, for insights on decision-making.